Hello friends, I'm here today with Sudipto Das, the author of 3 books, including his latest work, The Broken Amoretti. This is a novel that deals with a hidden love and its consequences. So welcome Sudipto, and let me begin by asking you the first question. Your book spans generations, relationships, and continents, and it describes love suppressed by societal norms. Tell us, what was the inspiration for writing The Broken Amoretti?
It's a very intriguing question. Like, why did I write such a novel, right? Which talks about relationships, which talk about cultures of different countries, of different civilizations, and of course, it has this unusual relationships also. So, I don't think I treated uh, the relationship or this unusual relationship as something very special, because I think anything which is normal to somebody might be abnormal to somebody else, right? And the entire culture of different countries are actually very unnatural to each other, right? And what intrigued me a lot is the fact that when I moved to Bangalore in South India from Delhi, it was a shock to me that uh, you know this this entire thing about non-vegetarianism and this vegetarianism, right? Being a Bengali, I never I never felt that uh, being vegetarian, or being non-vegetarian could be an issue. And first of all, this entire concept of vegetarianism doesn't exist in Bengal. But that's a big issue in in Bangalore and in so many places, right? So that was the first time it appeared to me things which are so default, so normal to me and normal to us. How many crore? I think some 4 or 5 crores, or even more Bengalis, right, in West Bengal, and I don't know few and many other crores across the world. For them, it's a non-issue. like and in our culture, right, we actually eat mutton, and mutton is a prasad in Kali Ghat. And in many places, I mean, during Durga Puja, right, mutton is again a prasad, right? We eat meat, during our pujas, right? But a similar thing in South India is unthinkable, right? I think that was the motivation which has been there in my mind for long. That this entire paradigm of natural, unnatural, usual, unusual things are actually baseless. Any relationship which appears unnatural to 99% people doesn't mean it's unnatural. It's all relative, right? I think that's what intrigued me a lot, and it remained in my mind. So I expressed that actually through relationships. And if you see, like in this book, a lot of things are there which are actually very queer. Which are very unnatural, but it is never treated unnaturally, right? For the people who are going through, for the people who are a part of these unnatural, apparently unnatural things, are dealing with those very naturally. Like I deal with eating mutton so naturally, and it might be very unnatural to a Tamil Brahmin, right? As simple as that.
Thank you for sharing your inspiration. It's always fascinating to get a peek into the mind of a creative writer and learn what motivates them to express themselves. Which brings me to my second question. The book ends with the narrator, Shaoli, recognizing the truth about her nature, that she is in love with another woman. whereas she was previously married to a man. Do you think this journey of self discovery is still rather difficult for an LGBT individual due to societal norms even today?
Well, you know, I mean, whether it is very easy or hard for somebody to, do what he or she likes to do, or to accept what he or she uh, is again, I believe, a very, relative thing, and it doesn't matter whether it is LGBT or whether it is anything which is broadly called queer. I think it's about anything. The moment anybody does it, something which is not the mainstream, uh, it doesn't have to be a relationship. Like there are so many aspects of relationships which are not LGBT but still which are even more taboo. Like Satyajit Ray, he married his first cousin, uh, Bijoy Roy, is her first cousin, right? And they grew up together in the same house, and suddenly they realized they love each other, and they got married. And if you think, what it would have been for them when they realize that they are in love with each other and they want to marry. I don't think, the trauma that they might have gone through or they might not have gone through. It's again relative, right? They come from a very, pragmatic Brahmo family, right? And he's on the both sides. The people might have been much more advanced than people are even to them, but still, the very fact that somebody wants to marry his or her first cousin, obviously, like it's a big taboo, and it's blasphemous, and I think in most of the cultures. So again, I don't want to deal LGBT as a very special case, because like it's a part of anything which is not mainstream, anything which is I would say unique, which is special. Like as they say, right? A genius is also an outlier, right? An idiot is also an outlier. A genius is also an outlier, right? So you have a bell curve, and you fit most of the people in the in the bell, and anything which is out of the way, you call them outliers, right? Like Einstein is an outlier, and so might be a very foolish, stupid person. But then from some point of view, even a very stupid person can be as special as a genius. So I think I never think about LGBT as a very, yes, unnatural thing. I would rather use the word special, and it's for somebody who is into that type of relationship, right? And for him or her to accept that uh, is as complicated and as tough as anybody else who wants to do something which is again not the natural thing. I remember one of my very close friends who later did amazingly well by not coming to science stream, wanted to study arts after the class 10 examination, and he got very good marks in maths and everything, and then when he decided that he doesn't want to do science, uh, you know his father, his mother, everybody was sort of shocked, and then sort of there was a lot of ruckus in the family. There was a lot of uh, you know emotional, sentimental things. I think similar things, which would happen if somebody tells that I'm a gay or I'm a lesbian. So I think it's not about just gay or lesbian or LGBT. Anything, anybody who wants to break the norm has to go through a lot of pain.
Thank you for sharing your insights into this. My next question is, the month of June is celebrated or commemorated as Gay Pride Month. throughout the world. As a writer who has written sensitively on the topic of a suppressed love, how do you feel about the state of freedom that people have today to be themselves and express themselves?
Uh, um, it's not about now. It's not about in the past. I think it has been always to be free. So freedom always comes at a cost, and I think that's fine. Because like I'd like to say, I mean, there is something what Tagore had told about freedom. What he told actually, like only when you bind the strings of a sitar, you liberate the music, right? When like meaning to liberate something, to liberate the like musical notes, you have to bind something, right? So there has to be some binding. There has to be some friction. Okay, I think friction is the wrong word. There has to be some binding to get some freedom, right? And again, he gives the example of a boat without any oar, without any sail, and it's in the middle of the sea. That's not freedom, right? Like that's anarchy. So I believe freedom always comes with a cost. Freedom always comes with pain, and I think that's how it is, right? I mean, everybody who wants to be free has to pay some price, and it's not about again LGBT or anything. I believe like I mean, as I've been telling again and again, right? I mean, I don't treat them as unnatural, right? And they're special, right? I mean, they're as special as anything else, or maybe as common as anything else. So it's about freedom, right? It's about what I want to do, uh, it's about what I want to be. So I mean, freedom comes with some binding, and it's fine. Without the binding freedom, you know, I mean, there's no value of freedom.
Yes, it's different in different parts of the world. There are places where laws are still repressive, while in other countries the laws are more supportive. So, in India, the Supreme Court ruled on 6 September 2018 that Section 377, which previously criminalized homosexuality, is unconstitutional and violates the rights of the individual, thus ensuring dignity and the right to choose their way of life to our LGBT population. Do you think India still has a long way to go in greater acceptance of same sex relationships? For instance, legalizing same sex marriage or adoption by same sex couples.
Uh, this entire thing about Article 377 and legitimizing that, I think it was an effort to undo some social injustice, right? But I mean, again, I would like to say that the injustice towards the LGBT community, right, is just one of the many injustices which have been, I mean, which have been there in your society for long. So I think I didn't feel something special about on that particular day because it's like one of the many injustices, right? Like the injustice towards poor people, the injustice towards education, right? Like there's so many things, right? People have to be educated. People have to have proper nutrition, like healthcare, education. These two are the biggest things, and I believe maximum injustice happens in the world, at least in India, in these two fields, right? I mean, healthcare and education, right? So I believe I mean, we have to fight a lot. I mean, it's not that I want to, I mean, ignore this entire thing about, I mean, Article 377, but I would like. I would just like to say that, I mean, I was happy. I was very happy that one of the injustices have been done away with. Okay, again, I would like to paraphrase. It's not done away with, but some baby step has been taken to to bring justice to those people who I mean who have gone through a lot of injustices. I mean, who have been made with a lot of injustices. But it's just a beginning, and we have to do similar things in a lot many areas.
Yes, we still have a long way to go for greater acceptance and openness. My final question for today is, do you have plans to write other books on similar topics in future?
Uh, I mean, whether I want to write again another story on this topic, I mean, I don't know, because like it's not that I wanted to write about it. It just happened, right? I mean, as I told, right, I never had this activism sort of mentality that I will do an activism about this, right? Because as I mean, as I've been telling number of times, right? I mean, I never treated this thing as a unique or unnatural thing, right? So you do activism for something when you think that you know like this is like one only one thing in the world that you should fight for. I think for me, it's again, as I told, it's one of the many injustices which, one of the social injustices which have been there in our society for long, and it is obviously it's special, and it's again, I won't use the word uncommon, but it's uh, m- like much less sin. It's much less prevalent, right? So I mean, if I mean, if it happens, if any such story comes to my mind, or if I really feel very strongly about something, right, I mean, which is related to LGBT and this entire thing, I think I will write. But then again, I mean, my intention will again not to be, you know, talk about LGBT or this entire, I mean, queer movement um, as as a very unnatural sort of thing, right? I mean, it's just like one of the many movements which, I mean, all of which are very important. Um, I think that's it.
Thank you, Sudipto, for sharing your thoughts, your creative insights, and your creative process with us. It's been a pleasure talking with you. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to many more creative books from you in future.